I'm Nick Armstrong from Fort Collins Startup Week, and I'm here with Lucas from Level Up Financial Planning. And we're going to be talking about his successful pivot to the COVID-19 situation. Lucas, why don't you introduce yourself and give us some background on your company?
Yeah, so Lucas Casarez, I'm a certified financial planner. I started Level Up Financial Planning 2.5 years ago, so definitely way before COVID-19 hit and kind of threw the whole world into chaos. But basically, at Level Up Financial Planning, I focus on kind of entry and mid-career level tech professionals, which is typically not a space for most financial planners. Most financial planners only want to work with rich, successful people. Before I started my own company, I was working at a firm where our minimum was $500,000 of investments in order to work with us. And so that's why I started Level Up Financial Plan, is to really help people figure out how to be successful, not only work with people only the ones that survived and were successful at that point.
So what were some of your first reactions when the COVID-19 situation began?
Yeah, I think it's hard for me to tell because stuff started happening so quickly, and I was monitoring the news and stuff a little bit more before things start really hitting home. But I think the investments is what I noticed first. So the stock market went crazy. It set records on the low end, set records on the high end, sometimes in the same week. Like it was pretty interesting and phenomenal how volatile the stock market was. So the first thing I did was I was very proactive in creating videos that I shared not only with my clients, but with all my email subscribers and Facebook followers, all those different social media outlets. And that was something that was important to me because with my clients, just knowing how people are emotionally tied to their investments sometimes, I wanted to make sure that it was going to be very hard for me to reach out to every single one of them and make sure I get them live on the phone to talk them through what's going on. So the video was super helpful as far as putting people at ease and giving people confidence that all my clients, at least, we already talked through this possibility, not COVID-19 specifically, but crazy stuff that throws the market into a tailspin. And we account for these things in advance to make sure people don't freak out basically and do the wrong thing at the wrong time.
So it sounds like you already did a good amount of client priming prior to this about disaster recovery and disaster planning. What was the reaction of your clients during the actual crisis as it was unfolding?
So as it was unfolding, I think a lot of people thought it wasn't going to be an issue for them initially. And again, I think that's how a lot of us felt, like, oh, yep, this is like a China thing. Now it's like, it's different parts of the country, not here, not us type deal. So I think early on it was like, oh yeah, like that's crazy. It's kind of like the flu. And I think that's what a lot of people were thinking. And as things kind of got more serious, you could see even the communications with the same clients. It went from that with some clients to the stock market being super volatile. Like, oh yeah, let's be aggressive. Let's start buying in while things are cheap. And those very same types of clients couple weeks later, like, oh my goodness, let's get everything out now. Like, what's going on? So I think the emotional toll it was taken on people, especially once people went into quarantine and having to be isolated, it's just not normal for people to have to deal with. So there's a lot of different emotions and things going on. I think that was the biggest thing that I noticed is people kind of wigging out. And so it was cool. A lot of clients would check in on me and make sure like I'm doing well and my family's doing well too. I think the most impactful thing that actually was relevant is the job losses. So starting to see that pretty substantially. About 20%, 30% of my clients have either been laid off or in some type of transitionary type period due to everything going on.
That's a great time to talk to your financial planner too, I suspect.
Yeah, yep. And that's one of the interesting things about my business model and how it's shaped is like people pay me kind of on a monthly subscription and it's not tied to investments specifically. And so when they lose their job, lose their income, I did have to be a little bit more proactive as far as how I was going to make this work. So basically we're allowing clients to hit the pause button on paying me, but obviously that's when they need to speak with me the most. So they're probably getting a lot more service. They're not actually paying me right now. And what we'll do is we'll kind of shore up things once they get back on their feet. So that's one of the things that I've had to be proactive about. And it's something it just makes sense to do. Like I enjoy working with my clients. And so I hate to have to turn them away during like one of the biggest times of need that they'll probably have in the foreseeable future.
You mentioned that you had an email list. You started creating videos. How did you get the message out to your clients and your community that you were providing these services?
Yeah, so I use MailChimp for kind of sending out those mass emails. And then I have them there's definitely some things that were more specific client messages. So I have my segments for clients specifically, and that's going to be worded differently because it's like I know more about their situation. Then there's kind of just the mass general email list that I have like 300 people or so on there. And one of the big things with everything going on is there was a lot of changes, a lot of new information flying around. And so that's, I think, something that I was able to do really proactively and helpfully is there was the CARES Act, which had a lot of unique features, both with retirement accounts, with the stimulus for paychecks, or just the stimulus checks. Then there's the unemployment, there's student loan forbearance. There was so much going on, and there was so much bad information and false news too, kind of early on. And so I think that was the biggest thing where I was like, all right, I need to learn, stay up to date on what's actually real, and then triple check it too for its validity. Because yeah, there was one thing I did jump the gun on my tax business that I also created this year, and it was with the extension going till July 15th. I announced that like one day before it was actually official because of something I read that said it was official, but it wasn't too big of a deal because it was official within like 24 hours. So it actually looked like I was Nostradamus there.
It's always good to be prescient, I think. What kind of help did you seek out, and where, if any, and where and why did you seek it out?
Yeah, so I'm a part of a few professional groups on Facebook. That's been helpful. Also, just have professional membership groups that I'm a part of. So just having those kind of safe places to go and kind of see like, oh, we're not the only ones thinking this stuff. We're not crazy for feeling this way about what's going on. So that was helpful. And then I think the biggest thing is just knowing where to go for that accurate information, because that's what my clients needed. That's what anyone that I want to communicate with. I don't want to give them false information. I want to make sure that they know like, oh, this guy is going to try to give us information, try to lighten it up a little bit, try to make it a little bit more fun than maybe some of the other outlets that they might have access to.
We're still early on, but have you seen any results so far in terms of your pivot and how your clients or customers are interacting with it?
So I know I saw your first interview that you did. I saw they had like crazy success. I haven't been quite so lucky with that. So no new clients, which is ultimately like as a business owner, what a lot of people would consider success. But what I do like to kind of hang my hat on and focus on the things I can control is kind of that value. I'm working with my clients so much more in depth right now, gaining even more trust than I already had, strengthening relationships to the point where like a lot of my clients that I've been talking with, they're like, oh, you're like, that's why I have you around. You're my go-to whenever I have a financial question. Clients saying that, yeah, like you're stuck with us for life is something I've been hearing. So obviously when people are fearful of their jobs, but they're still saying that stuff to me, makes me feel good about what the future looks like. So I think a lot of what I've been doing is building kind of longer term kind of potential, not only with my clients, but with referrals. And then a lot of the people on my email list and followers on the social media is like, they're getting some of the same information. Obviously it's not pinpoint personalized, but at least they have that resource and they know who to go to once they are ready to kind of dive in and get their financial life in order.
Yeah, customer retention is nothing to shake a stick at.
Yeah, yep, especially during these times for sure.
Do you have any advice for business owners who are looking to pivot or just not quite sure what to do yet?
At least from how I'm situated, and it's definitely in a very based off of kind of your business model and kind of where you're at. I think my business had just hit a point where 2.5 years into starting this thing out where it's like, oh, we're not operating like in the red. Like we're able to make payments. We don't necessarily need to grow at rocket speed. And so that's been nice to not have to worry about that, because growth, as I mentioned, it hasn't been occurring the last 2 to 3 months. But what it's allowed me to do is be able to think more long term, and that's what I've tried to do from the very beginning. Like a lot of my clients in the first place are sometimes in their early 20s, and in all reality, I'm probably not making a profit off them compared to what I would be if I was working with that more traditional client. So everything I try to do, as painful as it is usually thinking like long term, not oh, I want to have this client for a year. I do want these clients for 5 years, 10 years, for the rest of their life, basically, if I'm able to hold up the value in mind. So I think thinking long term is always an aspect, and it is painful, especially during these times. But the thing I like to think about is there's only so much I can control. I did have a lot of prospects that had verbally committed before all this happened, but I could dwell on that. I could keep kind of hounding people, but that's not my style at all. And so what I've chosen to do is just focus on the things that I can control. And some of these things are going to be very long-term plays, but it's something I'm adding value. And I'm still kind of enjoying the process of creating all this content and being there for people in whatever capacity they allow me to be there for them.
Do you think that some of the changes that you've made to your business during this crisis are going to stick with you afterwards?
I believe so. I've had the thought, just because I haven't seen it recently because the economy's been so well with tech constantly growing. There hasn't really been layoffs for the longest time, but I do know that that's just kind of built into how tech expands. Then they have to cut off some of the excess fat and stuff like that. So I've already had that in the back of my mind, like, well, what happens if someone gets laid off? So that helped me put this actually more firm in place, that being able to pause their payments, but still be able to receive value when they need it the most. And so I think some of it is actually putting into place some of the things that I had mentally thought of. But yeah, it's at a much grander scale. And it's definitely going to be something that I keep around, because even the clients that are worried about unemployment but are not actually unemployed, when I share this with them, I see them like, they're like, oh, okay, awesome. Like, hopefully, like, cross our fingers, we don't actually have to go through that process with you. But it's good to know, like, you're not going to just disappear because we're going to have trouble trying to pay you over the next month or two until we get situated again.
Where can we find out more about your business and Level Up Financial Planning services?
Yep. So levelupfinancialplanning.com. You'll find services, you'll find different forms of content. I have my video, even though it's on YouTube, I have everything kind of portaling through to my Level Up page. And so I also do strategy guides and cheat sheets. And so lots of free educational, informational content. And yeah, if you want to work with me, then I love working with people that want to work with me.